wherever you might be in the world, in helping us reach and attain those numbers so far. I will note that this is as of March 31. Of course, we're now at the end of April, and we'll have new and updated information to share then. And we'll be taking a look, of course, because as you all well know, without Scarlet and Give Back Day in the month of April, that's certainly going to have an effect, as well as looking at folks who maybe are changing their position on giving and pledges right now because of the current pandemic. But at this point, are feeling very positive about where we are and where we will close for June 30th for the fiscal year, really strong. Happy to take questions initially about gifts and commitments before we move on to the next two slides. Okay, so the next slide that we'll look at is our receipts, and that again is just focused on cash in. That is not commitments or what you might call a pledge payment, or excuse me, a pledge. It is just purely the gifts made or payments on pledges made this fiscal year. And again, it's a high watermark for the college. We have been performing very strong all year long, a lot of really amazing gifts. And as you can see, even some really significant endowment gifts related to scholarship or internship funds or endowed chair positions. So we're really pleased at the amount of cash in that the college has received this fiscal year alone. As you might imagine, with the Course of Fit campaign, we anticipated and hoped for increased giving over that period of time, and that's exactly what's happening. Questions on this slide before we move to the next? So this is purely alumni donors, not looking at total donors. We're of course tracking that as well internally. And one thing we were really pleased to see at the end of March is being ahead in alumni donors. We've struggled the last several fiscal years for a variety of reasons to retain donors and to get new donors in the door. But this year are ahead as the end of March. Again, I want to say that the numbers for Scarlet and Give Back Day not happening make this a really interesting thing for us to take a look at now when we will pull data in the next couple of days in relation. I'm so sorry, Mary, do you think you can mute folks? There we go. Just a reminder to make sure that your phone is muted while we're having the call. Thank you. So these numbers through the end of April most likely will change and look a little different. So we'll be taking a look at that, talking with each one of you about your classwork and how we can effectively partner with the great work you already do to increase calls, emails, conversations with classmates to help drive those who are willing and able to make a gift by June 30th to do that. Are there questions or concerns about alumni donor numbers that I can answer? I will turn this over to Jillian to walk through a couple of slides. Don't forget that you can put questions or comments to us in the chat box, and we will be happy to answer those as we move along.
Good afternoon. Thank you, May. As May stated, this is Jillian. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the call. So the slide that we are looking at here, these are the segments and our codes we give each alumni at the beginning of every fiscal year. And these codes are based on the prior fiscal year giving. So as May shared, we're really excited to see that as of the end of March that we were up in alumni donors. And what this table represents are the segments that our donors are coming from. So as you can see here, consecutive and prior year donors, we are seeing a higher response rate or giving participation rate, which is really wonderful. But when you look at those numbers compared to FY19, you might be wondering, well, the response rate is higher, yet there's not a significant difference in the number of donors. And the reason why is because for those two segments, we actually started with a smaller pool because we went down in those two categories last fiscal year for donor participation. But what you will see as well that is really exciting is that all of our lapse categories, we are seeing an increase in participation. And as you recall, we did a challenge in December where we really targeted all of our non-FY19 donors, so all of our lapsed, as well as individuals who've never made a gift to the college. And so that's one reason we're really seeing or believe that we are up in those specific categories for alumni participation. Are there any questions about the slide before we move ahead? Okay. So on this slide, this represents, of course, all of the channels that we use as we solicit alumni. And I think one thing to really think about, and when we look at the slide, I want to just say that when we look at this, we really aren't surprised by the information that we have seen, and it's really nothing new that we have shared with you in prior calls. We do know that fewer people are giving through the mail. However, that doesn't mean that people aren't responding to mail. And so one of the reasons we say this is because we are seeing an increase in online giving. As more and more people are becoming more comfortable making online transactions, it's definitely a natural occurrence that more people are going to be using online forms to make gifts to the college. We always seem to get a question about the other category, and we actually dug a little deeper into this category because it's been a question mark for me and others on the team. But what the other category represents is that these are gifts that were made in response to appeals from prior fiscal years. So it could have been a one-time gift. We have individuals who have made a sustaining gift, like a monthly sustaining gift that they started 4 or 5 years ago. So that falls into this category. It includes pledge payments, stock gifts, and my favorite, white mail. And what white mail means is that we have individuals who write a check, stick it in an envelope with no gift form. So we aren't sure what they're responding to or really what inspired the individual to make a gift. Now, when we dug a little bit deeper with the white mail, that actually accounts for about 21% of the other category. And so, like I said, we don't know what triggered this gift. And the reason that we felt it was important to state this is because many of you are going to be sending out CFD appeals via email. Some are going to be sending letters. And as fundraisers, we don't always experience instant gratification. When I used to work with CFDs more closely, I remember having conversations about, you know, CFD is like feeling I'm not getting responses to my emails or when I make phone calls. And really, it's the work that all of us are doing collectively through emails, through phone calls, through our various letters and personal contacts. That's really what's making the difference when it comes to annual giving and donor participation. So it's sometimes as an annual giving professional or volunteer, it is frustrating when we don't always know what the trigger was, why somebody decided to send in a gift form from like 3 or 4 years ago. But we just want to emphasize that it's really all the touches that we are making throughout a fiscal year really truly are important to securing support for the college each and every year. The other indicator on here that I wanted to mention is the Scarlet Give Back Day mailer. As May said, and as all of you are aware, we did have to cancel Scarlet Give Back Day. However, before that was done, we had sent out a mailer to the classes of 1991 and prior. And I'm happy to say that we raised over $27,000 through that mail piece. And I want to emphasize that we did reach out to those who responded to the mailer, and we did thank them for the gift and let them know that our matching gift donors did honor that dollar-for-dollar match. So before I pass this over to Bailey, who's going to talk about Phonathon, are there any questions about this slide? All right, I'm gonna, actually, we have a question here on the chat. It's from Barry Zygus. Has requests made to graduates followed a similar pattern? I think I understand the question, but Barry, I may not be tracking 100%. When you're talking about graduates, are you talking about all graduates or the recent graduates?
No, I was talking about the slide, the prior, sorry, thank you. This is Barry Zygus. The prior slide, which showed where the donations were coming from, which channel. And I was just trying to understand if the big increase in online response was related to a big increase in the use of online solicitations. I'm just trying to get cause and effect here, that's all.
Yeah. I can't say that it's 100% from online solicitations. We haven't increased the number of emails that we are sending out. But what I think we are seeing, and this is something that I have been tracking when we do mail appeals, is that when we send a mail piece, we are using a unique or friendly URL. So somebody uses that URL to make their gift. We can see that in the appeal tracking report that we have. So what I think is happening, or what we can see is happening, is people are receiving a piece of mail, and instead of writing a check and mailing it in, they're actually going online to make their gift. And so yes, I do. I mean, I think we're seeing it from a variety of classes. However, our most recent classes, they absolutely are the most accustomed or comfortable making gifts online.
Great, thank you.
Yes. There's just a comment here from David Calvert. I'm going to read it. As has been said before, it is pretty clear that all the various requests kind of support each other, so that the phone outreach and the letters we send, and that the president sends, and the local events reunion, all these things are mutually supported and encouraging contributions. And that is absolutely a true statement, David. Yes, we are all essentially working very hard to engage alumni with the college in, yes, reunion, in events, in communications that the president sends out. Those are all important touches as we work to engage alumni and keep our alumni up to speed with all the wonderful things or changes that are happening here with the college. And then, of course, the ultimate goal is through that engagement, we inspire individuals to financially support the college. Okay, we're going to move on to Bailey. Thank you for your questions and comments.
Thanks, Jillian. Hi, everyone. This is Bailey. I'm going to talk a little bit about our phone-a-thon results. We have the totals for FY20 here compared to FY19. And I would like to mention that our totals for FY20 are actually through March 12th, because that is the last day we called. That was the week that students found out that the college would be asking them to move off of campus. And so that is on that Thursday, our last day of calling. Obviously, that has quite affected our office campus. We really miss those students, and they really would have been calling for another 2 months. About 2 weeks would be their 2 weeks from today would be their last day of calling. So these are the totals in reference to that end date. I'm really, really happy with our conversion ratios for this year. Those are exactly where I want those to be. And then I'll also address the FY20 no second ask calling. Those numbers are not there because we normally would start our second ask calling during Scarlet Give Back Day. And because we ended calling before then and didn't end up actually having Scarlet Give Back Day, those numbers are not there. So obviously we are lower in our pledge dollars, and we definitely expected to have some time to recover from that. But I'm really happy with where we were at when all of this kind of came to an end. Does anyone have any questions before I pass it over to Jessica to talk about reunion? All right, Jessica, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I wasn't too quick on the unmute. If you could go back one, so this is Barry Zygus again. If you go back one slide, Can you give us any intel on whether there will be a fall phone-a-thon, whether students will be back on campus, or is that decision still pending?
That decision is definitely still pending. There are a lot of conversations going on about what fall is going to look like. And we're ready to get our students back, of course, but really there have not been any solid decisions made yet. But as soon as we can get them back on campus, we'd like to get them back on the phones. That's definitely our hope. Thank you for that question.
Any chance of doing phone-a-thon without being on campus? Mark,
thank you for that question. We definitely explored that that option, but actually prior to this all happening, we had spent at least a month, probably more like 2, with a lot of different work going towards securing our system, and especially the computers that the callers make their phone calls from, to make sure that they were compliant with our internet safety, they were secure to take credit card information, and that was pretty locked down on campus. And so we really didn't see any way for students to be doing this in their own homes, on their own computers and on their own cell phones, and being able to maintain that security. So unfortunately, we had to go in the way of security and ask that we not continue the program in 30 different home locations across the country and the world. So unfortunately, it led to having to cancel the program for the semester, but we feel confident that that was the secure kind of way to go.
That's a good answer. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right.
Okay, thank you so much, Bailey. This is Jessica. So as you all probably know by this point, reunion was canceled, so we will not be having a reunion celebration on campus this May as was normally planned. So these totals are as of the 20th of April, so they're pretty up to date. The main things that I wanted to point out here were that we have secured through all of our reunion 2020 classes just under $3.9 million in gifts, commitments, planned giving, so will bequests and things like that. So really excited about the work that has been done from all of these classes, in particular the class of 1970, who was slated to celebrate their 50th reunion this year, has over $2 million. So had a few very large gifts there, but a lot of 5-year pledges as well coming in for that 50th reunion. So their scholarship will actually be able to award in the coming fall because they had so much money raised and committed before December 31st. So really exciting for them to be able to start awarding that scholarship right away. We have a few other classes that will still be fundraising through the end of, all of our classes will still be fundraising through the end of June, as we normally do. The exception to that is a couple of classes who are still working on endowing scholarships. So the classes of 89 and 90 who are working on establishing some scholarships, and they will get a little extra time to continue that great work that they have started. Any questions about these in particular class giving?
This is Barry again. Just say the class of 70 must feel like they're laboring under some kind of eternal curse because they missed graduation and now it looks like they missed their on-campus reunion. Is that correct?
So they are not going to be celebrating their reunion on campus this May, but if we go to the next slide, we actually have some exciting information for them. So the class of 1970 and the class of 1971 will both be on campus next year during the normal reunion time, which is June 3rd through 6th next year, to be able to celebrate their 50th reunion. So while it's a year later, they're still getting that opportunity to come back and have their 50th reunion celebration.
That's great.
Barry, for what it's worth, this is May. I also think it's important to note that both 1970 and 71 classes and classmates are aware of this, as well as 71 was encouraging and inviting of 70 to join them. So it really is a nice partnership. And Jessica, there was a question on the chat from David Calvert. Is it possible to double up, invite this year's group to join next year's group, and maybe you want to address some of the classes that are not listed in that?
Yep, absolutely. So that leads me into my next point perfectly, David. So we have decided for the milestone classes, so the 10th, 25th, and 50th, that are our milestone groups that usually are a single class that come back each year to celebrate that milestone. We are going to double those classes up and have both the classes that were supposed to be back on campus this May and those that were slated to come back next year do kind of some mini clusters and join together. Those classes are all aware of this. So those class committees and leadership have all been notified, and they are all spreading the word to their classmates now about this decision. The 1951, who is the 70th reunion, is also a new milestone class. So we have decided that each year we will have a 70th reunion celebration as well for a single class. We just feel like that's a really important milestone. And although we probably won't have a lot of alumni be able to make it back to Grinnell, we felt that was something special and really worth celebrating. The other decision that we made is that the 55th cluster, who is slated to come back this May, will also be coming back next year. So that's the classes of 65 and 66. Outside of that, we do not know what other classes will be on campus. So for the other Reunion 2020 classes, as well as those who were scheduled to come back in 2021, we are still making decisions about our capacity that we have on campus. You know, we only have so many dorms, so we can only house so many people on campus. If you all remember, Grinnell is not a very large town, and so we don't have a lot of options to house people off of campus either, and then our campus partners. So there are lots of conversations and discussions happening across campus with our campus partners on capacity and what they can do. And I apologize for the child in the background if you all are hearing some background noise. So we will be working with those class leadership. We do know that we are planning to have all of the Reunion 2020 classes have a celebration before the end of 2021. So whether that is, you know, right before or right after normal reunion time, or how we can figure that out, we are still working on those right now, but we will hopefully have decisions soon so that we can start moving forward with planning and inviting people back to campus. Does that help answer your question, David?
Okay, I'm unmuted. What about just running them back to back? You know, one reunion and then another the next week.
So that is.
So I think that's actually I think my class is actually supposed to be coming next year. So now I'm getting worried.
Yeah, so that's one of the options that we have been talking about, is being able to run a reunion and then turn around and have another reunion right after that or right before that. It really comes down to, you know, what we can handle. So it takes a lot for us to flip all of those dorm rooms to get them ready for new people to stay in them. And so it's just really how much we can handle and how much we can do, because it does take us usually a couple of weeks to get campus ready for reunion. And so how fast can we flip campus and get it ready for another group of people is our big question.
Okay, do the best we can.
Does anybody else have any questions about the Reunion 2020 or 2021 classes? Or
yes,
the number?
I do. This is Hunt Davis, Jessica. So some of us in our class committee have been talking about our 60th reunion, which probably would be the last time we could really get together, but I don't see it listed.
Yeah, so again, we are just looking at what makes the most sense as far as how many people we can house on campus. And so None of the clusters that are slated to come back, we have not made any decisions other than that 55th cluster that was supposed to come back. So we are hopeful to have decisions soon with more information. Right now, we also, there was some conversation about commencement and what was going to happen there for the class of 2020 and when they would be celebrating. And so there was conversation about they may also be on campus during that same time. And so it's really just a capacity issue and figuring out about how many people we expect to come back from each class and what we can accommodate. I know that's not a fabulous answer, but we're working through all the different possibilities and scenarios. So if you have ideas or thoughts, feel free to send them our way as well.
Mark Schumann here. In response to that too, last 10 years or so, people have just been showing up on campus even when it's not officially their year. I'm sure you've heard of the Gray movement, Grinnell reunion every year. Maybe if your class, nobody's stopping your class from coming. If a lot of people want to attend reunion, they should, and it's a lot of fun. Actually, you don't need an official class invite.
Yes, we love our Grays group, and that is one discussion as well. Just if we would be able to allow that or limit that, or how we can make that all work. So we are running numbers and looking at data and hopeful to have decisions out very soon so that everybody can start planning. Right now, Iowa in particular is still in a very interesting place and don't know what's going to happen with travel and some of those decisions. So we are hopeful that we will have more information very soon to share and look forward to talking to all of you as your class leadership and your class committees once we have more information to be able to make a better informed decision. I think May is going to talk about the campaign.
Well, I sure as heck am going to try to not sound like a robot again. So my colleagues are going to let me know if I sound still normal, I hope.
You sound good, May.
Thank goodness. Thank you. Sorry about that. So the campaign for Grinnell College, Together We Are Greater, we're really just so excited to still be in this campaign process. Of course, we're bummed to be putting and postponing events and putting things on hold that we're going to continue to come out into many of your communities. Some of you are already fortunate enough to attend one of the campaign events or be here on campus and experience some of the things that we were taking out on the road and showcasing that are just the best of Grinnell. But as of the end of March, we were at $172.7 million raised in the course of the $175 million campaign goal. So we're really, really very close to hitting our goal and are pleased to be in progress of the campaign right now. We are not holding the campaign. I know there were questions that we've had internally and from some alumni about the campaign. We feel like it's still going to be appropriate for us to go forward and message to talk with any alum and parent or friend of the college who is considering a gift and seeing where that placement is. We still have many donors that were considering a major gift to the college in our final year of the campaign, which will run through next summer, who said, yep, we're still in the mix and we still want to support the college. So for now, we're going to move forward in the course of this campaign. I'm going to move on one more slide before I ask for questions. This one is just to allow you all the opportunity to see these are the priorities of our campaign: scholarships and financial aid, individually advised teaching and learning, Center for Careers, Life and Service, Institute for Global Engagement, our world-class facilities. As many of you know, Jessica already mentioned the Humanities and Social Studies Center is a part of that. Our unrestricted fund, the Pioneer Fund. And then there's a small category that is yet to be designated. Those are folks who've made gifts already and are working with our development staff in designating those to the areas that they just feel strongly and most passionate about. As you might imagine, scholarships and financial aid, significant amount of resources given there. our teaching and learning, and that over 53 million contributed, it encompasses so much of our campus. So it's a really broad category, and it makes sense that it's very large. But we're equally pleased too to see the Pioneer Fund at over 28 million. The college right now needs unrestricted dollars. So much is changing everywhere with budgets and what people are being asked to do or not do within budgets. And the college is really not going to be immune, despite fantastic resources available and good planning and smart people. We really are going to have to be thinking about this fund and how we can continue to promote the benefits of allowing the college that type of flexibility with those types of gifts. So I would be happy to take any questions about campaign before we continue on in our slideshow. I think, Jillian, you're up.
Okay, great. All right, so thinking ahead between now and June 30th. So before I talk about end of fiscal year pieces, I want to share with you briefly how the annual giving team pivoted and paused with the COVID-19 pandemic. So in addition to canceling Scarlet Give Back Day, we also paused our monthly renewal letters, as well as our pledge balance reminders, both of which we send out on a monthly basis. A couple weeks ago, after things calmed down a little bit, and as the team, we were able to think about messaging and ways to acknowledge that times have changed and acknowledge the fact that everyone has been impacted or affected by the pandemic, and some may have been financially affected. And so we really changed all of our messaging and acknowledge, hey, you may not be able to make your pledge right now, and that's okay. Or you may not be able to give now to Grinnell, but we hope in the future that you will be able to. And I'm really happy to share that because we moved from sending letters, the monthly letters and pledge balance reminders as letters, and we moved a majority of those to emails, our responses have been really good. We've had a couple people let us know they need to adjust their pledge payment date, but really everybody else was very positive about the messaging. So we feel that the emails and letters that are going to be you are going to be sending out, or we're sending out on your behalf, will also be well received because the language between what you're sending out and what we send out is very similar. And I think it just is a nice nod and acknowledgement that things have changed. If you're able, give, and if you aren't, we understand. So of course, the end of fiscal year is a very big time of year for us. And so in June, we are planning to do a postcard and some emails, as well as social media. We are fleshing out a few more details, and once we have really a solidified plan, we will be sharing that information with you in ways that, as volunteers, you can support our efforts so we can end the fiscal year as strong as we can under the current circumstances. Are there any questions about what's happening between now and June 30? Okay, Bailey, I'm passing to Bailey again.
Hi everyone, Bailey again. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we are planning to do now that we are no longer calling for Phone-a-thon for the rest of the semester. We, the annual giving staff, and also some select DAR staff are actually going to be picking up the phones and calling alumni ourselves. Before we make these calls, we're actually going to be sending out an email to folks, kind of letting them know that the Phone-a-thon program has been postponed until students return to campus. We will also, in that email, be including the numbers that we will be reaching out on, because none of us are at our office phones anymore. So that's just going to be sort of an introductory email to let folks know that we will be calling. This is all going to start on the 11th of May for our outreach. And below I have listed who we will be calling. We will be calling Condon and Pridon alumni who have not made their gifts this year yet. And then we will be calling folks who have not fulfilled their pledges quite yet, just to kind of set another reminder in there. And then something new that we're adding in is we are actually going to be calling folks whose recurring gifts will be ending in fiscal year 20. So just in hopes to get them their interest in reinstating that recurring gift and extending that into future years. So that is our current pivot project for the Phone-a-thon. Does anyone have any questions about this project? All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Mary.
All right, so you as our class fund directors, we look to you as our leaders as well during our end of fiscal year strategy. And we will be providing you emails once again to be sent through the Give Campus system. And then asking you also to make phone calls to your classmates, specifically those who are in that Condon, Pridon, maybe L2 group. And that way you can even just do a touch base with them, not even an ask, you know, just what I call an SOS call or a human touch. How are you? I haven't heard from you. We haven't, you know, had a chance to talk. Just those little connections sometimes can spark a gift with your classmates. And so knowing that those items will be coming to you over the coming weeks for you to reach out to your classmates, you know, through those emails or through the phone to, you know, end our fiscal year on a strong note, supporting the students of Grinnell during this time. They really are appreciating everything that we are doing to support them through this time. So are there questions about the end of fiscal year strategies? All right, with that, I'm going to also talk about some important dates that are coming up. As you all know, your spring appeal letters are in. They have been proofread and formatted, and we are loading them into Give Campus for you to send. Once that has been completed, you will be receiving an email from Jessica or myself letting you know that that appeal or appeals are ready to go to your classmates. That email from us will also include step-by-step directions to help you. If you are still, you know, needing a little bit of assistance, you know, utilizing the system, Jessica and I are more than happy to help you with that. We can hold a one-on-one screen share with you, or you can give us a call and we can walk you through the steps of how to send those appeals. That is just, you know, part of our job and something that we are more than happy to help with. Then, as Jillian said, the end of the fiscal year is June 30, so we will be working towards that goal of finishing the year on June 30. And the other important date I wanted to share with you is those important one-on-one calls that you will be having with myself and Jessica and May, July 27th through August 16th. And we will be transitioning over to a new system, so we'll be sending out information on how to log in through WebEx, which is different than logging in through GoToMeeting. So be on the lookout for those emails from us mid-July and directions on how to utilize the new conference calling system we are using. Any questions about the important dates that are coming up versus or anything else before we go into the question and answer session from what you submitted? All right, well, I'm going to turn this over to May, who's going to start with the first questions about communication.
So I'm going to read these questions just to help those as well on our phone. The first one is, why are we using Give Campus versus the bulk email system or mail or CFD appeals for the CFD appeals this spring? And one of the things that we realized is our Give Campus system really allows us the opportunity to have back and forth dialogue And we wanted to provide and remind you all of that opportunity with that system. Second is because of all that is going on right now in the world, we've really been asked to think carefully about the mail that we're sending out, and we're asked not to send letters as much as humanly possible, and help to eliminate any contact spread. So we eliminated that. We've gone to the email through Give Campus. We feel like that's a better interactive system for you all and for tracking. We certainly can send the bulk emails out, but this really allows this process to be in your hands, and we think that's an important thing. The second question that is related to communications that came then up through this is, when do you expect return to snail mail versus the email for communication purposes? And that is a question that I don't know that anyone in our team knows yet, or in our wider DAR team. I think we'll continue to evaluate as the college is doing right now in their planning and make some decisions into the summer. We are looking at some postcard options as we turn into June, as Jillian mentioned. But in full-scale operating mail system, we're really going to have to evaluate that. We're also at the mercy of some of our print mail houses and their staffs, and who's available and the amount of projects they can do. So we'll be looking to those offices to also help us determine capacity and the opportunity to do those types of things. So I'll move us on to some other questions, and certainly type things in the chat, unmute yourself, and we'll keep walking through the series of questions we have. Oh, and just as soon as I said that, I see something. Yes, Ann Roland Gabriel, thank you so much. Benefiting the United States postal workers and all of those that are delivering mail. We'd like to support them. We're not saying that we won't, but we certainly are trying to be evaluative of the things that we're doing now. The next question related to giving. How has the pandemic affected alumni giving? Right now, the numbers you saw clearly run through the end of March 31, and so it's only a small snapshot into probably what's then now transformed in the last 6 weeks from the start of the college being on a formal leave for its faculty and staff from being on campus. So we are really going to take a look at April's numbers in the next several days and try to understand and look at where we're at. We've certainly been evaluating those who've written to us to say, I'm sorry, I can't make my gift this year, or I need to change my pledge. And at this moment, it's not been a large number. So we're optimistic that as people are able and willing, they will make a gift. They might change the amount, and they might change the timeline within when they can do that. But at this point, we're still seeing a strong year for giving. What planning is being done to mitigate expected near and or long-term economic impacts of COVID? We currently have an emergency response team on campus that is looking at all things for our campus and wider community and how we can have smart planning, really be thinking about the bigger picture and what we're all going to be doing together. There was a community call with faculty staff last Friday. We continue to get updates regularly through our email and through our vice presidents as those are handed down on things that are happening and plans in the world. June 1st is a very big deadline for the college in terms of other summer planning, but also planning for the fall. And so right now we know for certain that the planning is to think about how we can move forward, in what ways can we cut back without sacrificing programs or people. We're absolutely being asked as an office for fundraising that we take a look at ways that we can sustain the work that we're doing, if at all possible. We're looking at admissions and that impact of students and recruitment class. So there's so much that's happening with planning, and we will continue. And I do sincerely hope that you all have felt like in the last year this has increased, but we will continue to be messaging you and trying to keep you in the loop early as our lead volunteers about the things on campus, changes, plans that are happening, And we'll just continue to do that through this COVID-19 pandemic. I believe that there was another question in here too. And David, we're going to answer questions about students in the next couple slides. So if you don't mind, I'll just hold off and come back to that. If economic impacts materialize, how does this impact the campaign? And right now we're close enough to the goal. I'm going to imagine at this point that sometime in the next coming months we are going to reach that goal. But beyond that, I don't know that I have much more that I can offer about impact of campaign, other than to say we've already had to put a pause on events. We have certainly changed some ways we are fundraising. At this point, we're moving forward with the campaign, and we're not going to put anything on hold. So I don't know that I have more I could offer there, but are there any questions about giving that I could answer? Okay, students, and I believe, Mitch, you're going to take this slide. Are there any updates you can share concerning the class of 2020? Is there a commencement planned? And what is planned to connect them to the alumni community?
Hi, May. And hello, everyone. So what are the commencement plans? So the commencement committee met, and they're going to be sending out grad boxes that consist of cords, pins, and stoles out to all of our seniors. There will also be a virtual commencement that's occurring on Monday, May 18th at 10 a.m., which is the normative time that we would normally have the commencement. Additionally, the commencement committee is currently exploring the idea of a fall 2020 and a spring 2021 commencement, in-person commencement, and just working out the logistics of what that would look like if it was including the class of 2020 into the previously planned commencements, or actually even possibly having something completely separate. Still to come on that one. In regards to what is currently planned to connect them to the alumni community, members of our offices are currently working on a new grad newsletter that will have 4 touches throughout the next fiscal year to really engage this class, helping them stay connected as a class, but then also have a lot of adulting 101 fun tidbits and just a lot of information that's coming out from our office as well. All right, I believe, there's the next question. How are students staying connected to the college during distance learning? That's a great question. So I know Dean Ann Harris is leading a Grinnellian Stay Connected group, which is a very wide group of faculty and staff on campus. It's a group that's focusing on a lot of different virtual engagement. For my specific programs, the Student Alumni Council is still continuing and just wrapped up their final meeting this past Tuesday. They oversee the yearbook, and the yearbook has still been going strong. We actually recorded a record number of orders this year in which we're paying for all the shipping and everything. So those are completely free to all students. Students are making light of it by even having a quarantine section. In regards to meetings, we have transitioned to virtual meetings, and we're still having alumni guests at our meetings. For our class ambassador program, what does that look like? They've transitioned from event planners into virtual event planners, in which they plan virtual events and have a lot of different social distancing initiatives through different social media platforms. And I also believe there's one more question just in regards to how have students been doing with learning? I can tell you that it's been tough. I can tell you it's been tough for them in regards to their academics. I know personally, I would say it's about a mixed bag. Luckily I get to work with a lot of optimistic students that have been making the most of their academic experience. But it's definitely a new challenge for them, being able to find balance at home and trying to do the online courses, not being in the actual classroom. And we as faculty and staff definitely miss having them on campus. I think that's all the questions for this page. I'm going to pass it back over to May for these next couple of questions.
Thanks so much, Mitch. Janet, I see your question and I will get to it about the president. Continuing to follow up on students for the fall semester, as I mentioned already, we have a June 1 deadline to look at and evaluate what types of learning would we offer. How would the fall semester work? What will this mean for students who can't come back into this country right now? Because that's a very real concern. We are not unlike any other college and university across the United States and the world that is thinking about this and trying to make the best informed decisions for our area. So the college is actively planning, actively putting together faculty and staff. Already for this summer, we had to come up with coursework that would look different than a traditional mentored advanced program, our MAPS, because we couldn't host students on campus in the same way to do those types of things. And so faculty members, man, they had tons of submissions for types of courses and opportunities for our students who are still here in the dorms, about 130 students still here, separated safely, and students who are elsewhere in the United States who, for reasons of their visa, need to be taking coursework this summer. So to be decided, how is pandemic impacting enrollment, which is a really concerning question for lots of places. And for those of you who have been following the NAC, the admissions group, you know, a lot of changes happened this year in relationship to admissions that are now rearing themselves in a very interesting way during this pandemic. I'm happy to report that as of about 10 days ago, when I got my last admissions update from senior team, that we were 30 students ahead in terms of our enrollment numbers. Of course, a lot can change, so we are certainly being optimistic, but also taking a look at all the work admissions is doing, the types of interactions counselors are having, the types of webinars and opportunities to talk with faculty members and talk with other parents, talk with other students about the reasons why Grinnell is the place that we hope these students will choose to want to be at. And universities and colleges across the world are doing all sorts of things to entice students to come and or just simply to stay. So we are thinking about this and are definitely taking a look at how we can continue to really set ourselves up for success when it comes to fall enrollment in really uncertain times. The next question is can you explain the financial aid COVID-19 grant? So I believe some of you would be aware that we recently sent a message to students on campus and, well, students all over, current students, about a COVID-19 grant award. It was $2,500 that the college has sent to those students, knowing that, you know, a lot of personal and family crises are happening. It's a one-time continuing student grant, so no, it did not go to senior students. It was for first, second, and third year students. But the college really felt like, because of hardships and things that would be happening right now, that this was an important thing to do to help alleviate some pressure and concerns. There is not paperwork. No one had to apply for this. It is something the financial aid worked with to help distribute to those students. Are there other student questions? No. Okay, perfect. So before I do presidential update, just want to make sure, are there any other student-related questions that we could answer for you? Okay, so the presidential search is well underway. There is formalized language. We've certainly had a number of applicants to this search. We are awaiting our next update, which really should be that the search committee, which is being led by George Moose and by Trish Anderson, both alums, part of the Board of Trustees, and other faculty, staff, and student representatives. We expect an update from them fairly soon. There is an upcoming board meeting that they will have, so that we would know where they are with the search. Do we have viable and strong applicants that they think should go forward to the next round, which then would mean some more screening and potentially the start of conversations of interviews and how to and how do we include alumni in that process, right? And the feedback on that. So do stay tuned. We should have more for you related to that presidential update, I hope shortly. Would it be possible for CFDs and other volunteers to have a connection with Dean Ann Harris, soon to be interim president? This came up recently, and we realized that for our fall volunteer weekend, Dean Harris did not meet with us. She was also unable to meet with the Alumni Council during their spring on-campus meeting. And we have decided that for our volunteers, we're going to try to create another webinar experience in the coming month to 6 weeks, where we hope Dean Harris would hop on a call and answer your questions, give you an opportunity to meet her. Personally, I feel like Ann has been a fantastic addition to the college and really been great leader, thoughtful, kind, patient, pushing when necessary for us during this pandemic. So we are really pleased that the Board of Trustees felt she was the best to represent the college in the interim during President Kington's soon-to-be departure. So stay tuned, please. We'll be looking for you to submit questions. We'll be looking for you to join us so that you can meet Ann, hear from her. Great opportunity for those of you that haven't yet seen her on the road to get to see her virtually. And then Janet, I want to go back to your question. What type of celebration / recognition would the college be having for President Kington? As you might know, or even just might guess, we had planned to honor President Kington before his departure in June, but unfortunately those plans have been canceled for now. I am confident the college will think about a couple of ways to virtually thank him for his service to the college. I don't know whether or not we will come to an opportunity for him to come back at some other time or do some other recognition that's in person. But at this time, I do know that we'll be looking to hear something from the president's office about some type of virtual experience. So I would say stay tuned. He's a little bit of a shy person when it comes to these types of engagements. So I'm certain he's not asking for any large fanfare, but I know that there are many that want to thank him for his contributions to the college. Any other questions about presidential search or updates of sorts that I could answer before? We'll keep it moving. So other questions we had, will the HSSC, which is the Humanities and Social Studies Center, be completed this summer as scheduled? Really one of the interesting things for the state of Iowa. We are not at a stay-in-place order, so there are some things that are deemed as appropriate to continue on, and construction is one of those. So at this moment, we have not heard anything counter to a completion this summer and or timeline being changed. So we anticipate that things will continue to move ahead as that construction and work can be done, or it can be done in a safe manner. We're looking forward to the opportunity to have that entire building open. I'm sure many faculty and staff who've been displaced or programs been moved just temporarily will be appreciating the opportunity to be back in those buildings. And for those of you that have already been on campus, to see the new part of the Humanities and Social Studies Center open, it's quite a building, and it's pretty awesome for our students to be able to learn and live in, really. What are the plans for the alumni returning to campus this fall for reunion planning, fall athletic weekends, and or other scheduled gatherings? It may sound like a broken record, but one of really the most honest way I can say is I don't know. While we are making plans, certainly for reunion planning classes, we have a couple dates held. We have fall athletic weekend during Labor Day weekend held. We've certainly been working off campus to think about return to normal and campaign alumni events. However, with everything that's happening, and right now the college is very clear message to faculty and staff that we will not be traveling professionally this summer at all. I'm uncertain whether we'll be able to be at a point of having these events on campus or other scheduled gatherings. We are not even doing our traditional picnic series this summer that we typically host throughout cities throughout the United States and really across the world. So I, again, would encourage you to just stay tuned to information that's coming out. In particular, for those of you for reunions, your reunion planning committees will be also communicating information out as they know it through class letters, through class fund director appeals. You all have been doing, you've been communicating things, so we'll continue that method. Additionally, as the college knows different changes, we will continue to communicate out those bigger weekend messages. Barry, I see your question about football. I'm not sure that it makes that easier to deal with. I think that the football program and the coach was just featured in a piece about his work and recruitment and schedule, and they were moving forward with things they had planned. So really for all teams, this is really a huge loss. Most of them did not get their senior spring season for many sports. And I think if the fall we continue this way, that'll be a huge impact for all of our student athletes, and feeling really conflicted and sad about not being able to have their season. So I think for football, they're the same as other sports, looking forward to the season and the team coming back and being at a stronger numbers, and we'll be waiting to see whether or not they get to have a season. With that, and not seeing other questions, and also realizing that we are past our hour time frame, are there other questions? Please type them in the chat or take yourself off mute. If myself or our team can answer them, we'd be happy to do that.
Well, hearing and seeing no further questions, I just want to take a moment to say thank you so much for joining our webinar today. We really appreciate your partnership as our class fund directors, our leaders of the alumni, and I just cannot stress to you to please stay healthy, please stay safe, and as Dean Harris is doing, Grinnellians stay connected. I encourage you to reach out to your classmates in a non-solicitation form just to do a check-in with them to see how they're doing, or any other alumni friends that you have. It's a very trying time, as we know, for everyone, and as much as we can stay connected to one another, and I know many of you have been staying connected to us and our office, we really appreciate it. So if there are no further questions, just thank you again for joining us today, and thank you for everything that you do to support the students, the faculty, the staff, and the programs at Grinnell. And have a great afternoon.
Bye.